Hey guys, Furman here with DIY Pioneer Guy. Super excited to have you on board. Thank you so much. So today I wanted to talk to you about cooking with cast iron skillet. I love cooking with my cast iron skillet, I gotta be honest. But one of the problems that I have is whenever I'm cooking with it, I go to reach, it's hot, I always need the oven mitt, right? Well, today we're gonna go over how to use our leather tooling techniques to make a little kind of a handle holder, if you will. Super excited going over it with you guys. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so one of the first things we need to do in order to be able to do this is we need to find some scrap leather, or leather we're going to use to make our pot handle. So luckily for us, I have some here to be able to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys the steps required. Okay, one of the next things for us to consider is how big our handle is, and that's going to play a key factor obviously in using our leather and figuring out how to use our leather. And so with that in mind, we got to make sure that the leather we're using is actually big enough that it's going to fit to how big our leather is here. And so because of that, we're obviously in a good position here, but just in case, we obviously take our measurements. And so in this point we're looking like let's say 1.5 inches to be on the safe side, and in the rest of the world we're probably looking at about 4 centimeters is our biggest point. Okay, so what I've done here is I've actually drawn in the shapes that I'm going to cut out. I know I'd said 1.5 inches being the minimum that was required here, but keep in mind guys, there's no way, especially because we're sewing with leather, 1.5 inches won't do it, because we have the sides and the outside perimeter to punch holes and cut it through. So what I actually did is I'd rather make it a little bit bigger, and then I can adjust in, but I can't grow leather once it's cut. I actually went ahead and cut it at 2 inches to give myself a little bit more space. Because we're dealing with leather, I went ahead and I want the cut to be clean cut, so I actually transferred the same image, the same angles, the same measurements basically on the other side. Then I'll make a nice clean cut over on this end. So the way I'll be doing my cuts is I have a very sharp knife here that I'll be using, and also my ruler, and I'm going to make the cuts. Okay, so our cuts are made. We have our leather here that we're going to be putting together, both about 2 inches. Now another technique that we'll actually be doing is called skiving, and that's where we actually are going to take a little bit out of the edges, so that way it's not so square. I'm actually going to be cutting a section off the top, if you will. Imagine cutting it at an angle, so that way when we put the two pieces together and we stitch them up together, they come together a little bit easier than what they currently are looking like that. See, so that would make it really hard for them to come together. If we imagine almost cutting this at a 45-degree angle, that would make it easier for them to come together. Okay, as you can see here, I left this as a comparator, one side versus the other. This is what the edges look like after they've been skivied. I don't know if you can make that out very well. It's kind of hard to tell in the lighting, but this kind of gives you an idea of what the other one looks like. So if you put them side by side, you can kind of, I don't know if you can tell here, but the edges do taper down. So when you do the same on both sides, they're going to come together a lot better and allow you to do so, to bring them together. Regarding my skiving and the skiving tool that I used, I actually used this tool. I think it's called the French skivel. I'm not sure, French tool for skiving, something like that. But guys, I also used this on the other side. So I did one side using that tool, and the other side I just used a really sharp knife. Angled it, put it safely on another piece, and just went through and cut it through. Okay, so at this point I'm going to be using the tool to gauge out the sides. Then I'll be marking up where I'm going to be putting my stitches in. Then I'm going to be punching out my slits so that way I can start stitching it up. Okay, at this point I got them both marked off in a centimeter here. So provided that this pattern follows starting off here and moving forward, when I put them together and they line up, they're going to line up perfectly. Now no matter what, even if it was slightly off, all I do then is actually I would be able to cut the leather to make it match, but I kind of would like it if it ended up the way it currently is, so it'll line up moving forward. At this point you can see the little dots and how they match up on both ends. So I have the little dots all the way through. And now I'm going to go through and punch the slits in there, so then that way I can start. Now these happen to match up. The slits here, I'm going to be matching up with where my stuff is marked off. Okay, so the initial holes that I made, while they matched up perfectly when I started punching it out, did not coincide perfectly. The good thing is that I started both at the same side, so as long as I keep this template at the same spacing, these are going to line up perfectly. And they do. It's all punched out. Now we're going to start threading this together. We got our thread, we got our end. It's going to be tucked in there and hidden up, and I'll show you after we've threaded together on one side. Then we're going to do the other. So as you can see here, I'm continuing to stitch it through. This last one over here, I'm actually going to go around the needle twice. Run it through. Sewing's all completed, and we have our pot holder finalized. So you guys can see here, it's sewed up, completed, stitched up. Now we can actually burnish the ends, or burnish the ends. So I'm actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a knife and cut these up so they match a little bit more evenly, sand them down, and I'm going to use a burnishing tool, which I'll show you. But our product is completed. As you can see, it's just perfect. However, the more we use it, the easier it'll slide in and out, and it'll make it to the point where it'll be really easy once we've used it a lot. Again, this leather has not been worked at all. So, as you can see, it'll slide in, we'll be able to pick it up, and now our hands will not get burned. Yay! And over time, I'm going to make sure that it slides in and out a lot more easily. See? Alright, thanks guys. Appreciate it. I hope you can see it well. I'm actually going to use a sharp knife, and I'm going to cut this down to the point where, as I'm doing my cut, I want both sides of the leather to be cut, not just one side or the other, so they match up. So as you can see here, here's an example where as I'm cutting, I'm only grabbing one edge of it. I want to get it to the point where when I cut, it includes both sides. See, as I'm cutting here, now it's starting to match up. Not quite 100%. There we go. Now it's starting to get both ends. Alright, with the burnishing tool, I'm actually going to start burnishing and putting the edges together. I've sanded it down, I've cut them down and sanded them down to the point where they match up really well. And I'm just going to start bringing it together. And I'll keep showing you guys as I progress. Hopefully at the end I'll give you a good example of what to look at. Okay, this is the side I've just been working on just a little bit. It's not fully burnished or brought together. The other side I wet it and I continue to work it, and as you can see, it's becoming one piece. It looks like one piece. Eventually it'll look a lot better. It may not even come fully to one complete piece, but it'll look a lot better than when it's two completely separated out pieces. Then I'll keep working this side until it's a lot more similar. And again, here we have our completed project, and it'll eventually get to the point where it'll just slide right in. And we've successfully completed our pot holder. Alright guys, excited to share it with you. So here is our completed project. As you can tell, I've already been using it a little. The side got a little burnt when I put it in there, but it saved my hand. Works perfectly well. My hand didn't get hot in the handle, so as you can see here, it slides right in beautifully. The other thing that I wanted to share, it holds it well, it doesn't slide out, holds it really well. But not only does it hold this one in place, obviously, I I have more than one cast iron skillet. I have a number of them. But it worked well with all of them. Just beautifully, slides right in, holds it in place. It's gonna work out well. Now don't forget guys, you can actually customize these yourselves. You can actually leather tool in them, put custom logos, your names, whatever, maybe special dates. If it's a gift to, from, love, anything you want on there. So I think it's a great opportunity to kind of make something and just practicing some of your leather working skills, from stitching to, well, you name it. Anyway, a lot of opportunities with something like this. Stay tuned for other episodes where I'll go over other aspects and things that you can do, not only with leather, but with everything else. Again, love sharing the time with you guys. This is DIY Pioneer Guy. Look forward to talking to you soon.